Some of that comes from society's stereotypes that are placed on women and men. So for example, women, when they're judged and evaluated, it's looked at their past performance. You have to prove that you have the experience and the capabilities, whereas men are judged by their potential. It's assumed they have the experience and the results.
Hi, I'm James Taylor, business creativity and innovation keynote speaker, and this is The Creative Life, a show dedicated to you, the creative. If you're looking for motivation, inspiration, and advice while at home, at work, or on your daily commute, then this show is for you. Each episode brings you a successful creative, whether that's an author, musician, entrepreneur, performer, designer, or thought leader. They'll share with you their journey, their successes, their failures, their creative process, and much, much more. You'll find show notes for this episode, as well as free training on creativity, over at jamestaylor.me. Enjoy this episode. Hey there, it's James Taylor, and I'm delighted to have on the show today Joan Kuhl, founder of Why Millennials Matter. Joan Kuhl is an author, speaker, and champion of women in leadership. Through her international speaking engagements, research, and consulting, she had guided leaders from more than 60 countries with clients such as Goldman Sachs, Eli Lilly and Company, University of North Carolina, and the New York Mets. She is the author of 3 books, including Dig Your Heels In, Navigate Corporate BS, and Build the Company You Deserve. It's my great pleasure to have Joan with us today. So welcome, Joan.
Thank you, James. I'm excited to be with you.
So share with everyone what's happening in your world just now.
Right now, I am in the midst of the book launch. I just launched Dig Your Heels In, Navigate Corporate BS, and Build the Company You Deserve, which is really all about arming women with the tools to go after everything they deserve in the workplace, and talking to leaders, both women and men, about what we need to do to make an inclusive culture that really attracts the next generation and helps everybody thrive. So it's just been very busy going to a lot of different corporations, communities, and events, really having this conversation.
So I was having I just mentioned to you before I came on this interview, I was having a conversation with a friend of my wife's who she was very successful in business. Then she decided to take some time out, had 2 children, and now she's coming back into the world of work. And she said 2 things that she's really thinking about a lot just now, coming back especially into the corporate side. One is confidence, that side of things. And then the other one is almost like how to tell the story. So you have this, this gap, this period in your CV. How do you kind of start to think about what a vision of my career, this overall, how do you tell that story to someone sitting across from you, the other side of the room, who's thinking about bringing you in? So can I ask, the first one is the confidence piece. If someone, regardless of whether they're going into the corporate world or if they're thinking about starting their own business, what can they be doing there to kind of develop that confidence?
Coincidentally, I just literally hit the send button to US Soccer. Working with them on this entire module and work training around confidence, cultivating confidence, growing it, embodying it, and conquering the things that stand their way. Because you think about the US women's national soccer team, and they're fighting for wage equality. But we also have this platform called She Believes that's for girls and women to cultivate this confidence. So here's what I would tell her, having just immersed myself in the research and coming up with some tools. The first thing is kind of thinking about the definition of confidence, which is really developing and taking action on skills you have and abilities. That's not really how everybody thinks. It's like this gravitas. No, confidence is the thing that helps you take a step forward. And so in this particular situation, she wants to re-enter the workplace. And I can't believe how many women, I was actually surprised with this, are showing up for all of my events that have been staying at home, took time out of the workplace, not just for having children, for aging parents, a sick friend, their own health, and are trying to re-enter. And that confidence part is the first step. So the first thing is to start to practice it, which is really taking an inventory of your strengths. I joke all the time that mom should be a line in LinkedIn, because the incredible amount of transferable skills. But again, anything that you did, kind of think about, how you used, your strategic thinking skills, decision-making. Second is actually self-care. So with confidence, that means making sure that we know what gives us energy and what takes away our energy. And if there's big moments where we're networking or we think we're going to be talking to someone that could open a door for us, to make sure that we're in the best mindset, feeling, our most confident. Maybe that means means you had to take a run. Maybe that means like you have to like take the time to lay out the outfit you're wearing. Like that's simple steps for self-care. And then I have, a number of tips on my website about imposter syndrome, which is kind of fighting that battle in your head that tells you you're not worthy, you're not ready, and what to do about it.
I love what Elizabeth Gilbert says about imposter syndrome. She said it's just a fancy type of fear. It's fear dressed up in Jimmy Choo shoes. Well,
That's so good.
you're trying to look, oh, well, I need to be 100% perfect, but actually, it's fear. There's kicking in. It's a different type of fear. So, I mean, that's a really common one, imposter syndrome. I was talking to a friend of mine, Patricia Ishavaria, the other day, and we were just having a conversation about speakers, professional speakers. And we were talking specifically around financial conferences, why when you see a lot of financial conferences, it's essentially 95% men that are the speakers. I said, what's going on there? And even legal conferences are the same, because I speak to a lot of lawyers, and it feels like now it's probably 60% women lawyers in terms of in the world of work, but that's not being reflected in the conferences necessarily by the speakers. And what she was saying to me, and this kind of goes to the imposter syndrome, she said, every time an opportunity comes up, let's say it's a conference, they're looking for 2 keynote speakers, a big opening and a closing, you'll get 100 guys who immediately think, I'm perfect for this. I can absolutely do this. You'll have 100 women who are equally as well qualified, but only 10% of them will actually put themselves forward because of that imposter syndrome. So how do we start to chisel that away? Because, obviously guys, I'm not saying that guys don't feel imposter syndrome, because we do, but if you always feel stronger, like that perfectionism thing and the imposter syndrome feels stronger in a lot of women I know.
Definitely. So, first thing is some of that comes from society's stereotypes that are placed on women and men. So for example, women, when they're judged and evaluated, it's looked at their past performance. You have to prove that you have the experience and the capabilities, whereas men are judged by their potential. It's assumed they have the experience and the results. Okay. So if that is the world that you've been working in, evaluated, assessed, it puts some pressure on you, and that you don't feel like you have to do more to prove yourself. So that's where that bias creeps in from, the stereotypes that are out there. The second part about overcoming that evil DJ that's spinning, all the things that say that you aren't good enough, the imposter syndrome. I think that this is where we just have to talk about the phenomena that men will go after something when they have 1 out of the 10 qualifications, and women hold themselves back until they have 9 of the 10. It is attached to that idea of having to prove yourself versus being able to kind of have the momentum of your potential. So the more you talk about it, it pushes women to take risks. You also have to, I think, really, this is where relationships are everything. We do need male and female allies that will, kind of push us to say, you are ready. You are deserving of this. Let me recommend someone. I think for us, you and I, as speakers, I do that all the time. So if somebody calls me and I can't make something, I'm going to refer another woman on purpose. So I think being really intentional about getting that representation out there, and seeing is believing. The more opening and closing remarks by women at financial and legal conferences, the more it'll be replicated.
And it was funny, the other day I was on the phone with a client. This was a large advertising agency, and they were asking me to come and I think be the closing speaker at their conference that they were doing. And as I'm just talking to them, and we figured out, yes, I was the right speaker, all that stuff. And I said, who are the other speakers that you've booked? Are you looking for recommendations for speakers? And they went through a list of a number of speakers, all very good speakers. But all of them were guys, first of all, and they all looked like me. So they were white, male guys.
Right.
And I actually said, and what I thought was interesting was that the client, on the client side, I was actually talking to 2 female executives. These were not guys I was talking to. These were 2 women. I would say one was late 20s, the other one was mid 30s. So I thought, if they're not aware of those kind of biases that are kind of going on,
and the
then
optics of it.
So I raised. I said, you've thought about adding some diversity, and they said something interesting. They said, oh well, we're going to have a moderator, a female moderator. And I said, that's great, you have a female moderator, but
a moderator's role is so different, an MC's role is so different from a keynote speaker. So in the end, we can, and I'm not sure who they ended up booking in the end. I hope they
But
add
I
to
love
this
that
in
you
the fire
spoke
stuff.
up.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
it's funny because you don't want to, you want to do it in a respectful way. You don't want to kind of go, listen, you don't want to call them, say bad things about them, but it's finding. So is there anything that, and I'm talking because we're going to have a lot of people watching and listening to this who are in exactly the same position as me, maybe they're male speakers.
Yeah.
How should we be approaching this one? How should we be doing it and being respectful?
I'm so appreciative of you teeing that up and also leading by example, James. That is the message. Okay. So I think first, this is the time. So I think any men that are listening, this is the opportunity to prove that you are an inclusive leader. And that's what companies are looking to be. And so they're going to want to hire people that emulate those qualities and those characteristics. But also to your point, kind of the grace of increasing people's awareness without belittling them or calling them out. Because again, some of this stuff is completely unconscious. And both women and men have bias. This isn't just men have bias against women. So I think and I write about this a lot in my book because women talk about this. Michelle Carnahan is an executive at Sanofi, the pharmaceutical company, and she talks about how sometimes when she sees women that may not particularly be going out of their way for other women, you don't call them out in front of other people, right? Make it this confrontation. You kind of take them aside and say, you are this tremendous example. And I know that it probably took a lot for you to get where you are and break through those glass ceilings, but we need you. And, what can I do to help you reach out a little bit more? And so same as in your circumstance, it's scary as a speaker, because you don't want to risk you not getting that opportunity, right? We have such a tricky business here. But again, it's that role modeling inclusivity, showing that you're a team player, and use the data. This isn't the nice thing to do. This is the smartest thing to do. Talk about, you're, an advertising company, 96% of women are driving consumer decisions. So wouldn't you want to have that kind of representation on stage influencing your clients, your audience? So I think that's where we have to come from, the business case.
And let's go into the other side of things. I know you work a lot with the Girl Guides of America. You've done some things with them in the past. I've seen you, women from the
Girl Scouts.
Girl Guide, Girl Scouts, sorry, of America. So how can we be, how should we be talking to girls and boys to ensure, because these people, they're going to be the leaders of the future, to ensure that we're dealing with some of those, ensuring that we're dealing with those confidence issues and imposter, the perfectionism things that they are, so everyone feel confidence regardless of gender, ethnicity, wherever they're coming from. How should we be talking to those younger people?
So I have a lot to say on the subject, so you're gonna have to wave your hand to stop me. But the first thing to say is that I have a long history of being involved in organizations that serve girls, from the Girl Scouts to Girls Hope to Step Up for Women, Girls on the Run, and now I sit on the board of Girls Inc. of New York City. I'm also the mother of 2 daughters. This is near and dear to my heart because I want to raise my girls to have good manners and show up in the world as good people, but I don't want them to shrink themselves, and I don't want them to fall in the traps of bias. So I immerse myself in a lot of girls' leadership conversations because I think there's a direct thread to helping women thrive right now at work, to the stories we're told when we're younger and the experiences and how we set them up for their potential. So first, to your question about how do we talk to girls and boys, this isn't about just telling only girls that you can be anything. It's telling boys they can also be as well. 98% of boys have been told in a recent study that they were acting like a girl, which they interpret to mean behavior that's implicitly emotional, basically telling them from a young age that, this is a bad way to be and you have to be this other way. And so if nearly half of boys are saying we want to learn about having the right to feel, then that's how we need to kind of approach this with young leaders, students and our next generation. For girls in particular, because we still don't have women that look like them in every possible industry and career pathway, seeing is believing for many young girls. Plenty break through and become pioneers, but that's why STEM, science, technology, engineering, math they're very particular about getting girls. My daughter's in kindergarten taking coding classes, because if you don't plant those seeds early, there's other things that they may end up enjoying or liking. And so showing them real people that do these jobs is really important. Same with, boys, showing them different professions they may not have been aware of. And I think just now, what's important about the conversation is that their children are watching all the time. And so I know, living in New York City, children see 5,000 media messages a day. And I think we take the city bus to school. We pass a number of taxis. They have advertisements on it. And sometimes I say to my daughter, when you look at that, it's a sexy image of a woman with a perfume bottle all the way over here. Like, what's she selling? What does that ad say? And that's the kind of conversation that we need to have with them. Like, that doesn't say anything about how smart she is. That doesn't say anything about how powerful she is or what she does, or maybe she wants to wear the perfume because it smells like something that makes her happy. Shouldn't that be the image you see? So we really have to be conscientious of how we're talking in front of them, how we're approaching them, and know that we can't control everything, but just, I think, kind of do our best, to be intentional about them being open to also being inclusive.
Now let's go to your creative process, this new book,
Yeah.
Dig Your Heels In. So tell us, the process of writing that book. Because obviously I know you as a speaker, you're doing lots of amazing work with different groups, organizations, companies. But the process of writing a book, how does it work for you? What works best?
It was a huge shift for me, because Misunderstood Millennial Talent, the last book that I was involved in, it was more research driven. So it was sponsored by corporations. And so it was very technical in the way that I set it up. And I can be like that. That's my yin and yang, is that I get very technical because I run a research-based company, but the emotion, the storytelling part is what people remember. And so what my process was to try to use both those sides of myself. One was really the outline of what I wanted the message to be. And that's how I came up with the idea of, I want this book to not just inspire women, I want it to arm them. So I want it to have real strategies. I want to talk about the topics, but I want to give them really relatable stories from women that I know that inspire me, that are diverse across industry, race, and age. And then, open up the vault and share a little bit of my own. And I still have work to do there, but I divided the book up into 3 parts. The first is making the case. This is what I was telling you before. This is telling them, be armed with the data. That's going to be what people listen to. That helps you really feel grounded and confident that this is why we deserve and need it. The second part is making it happen. So this is where I really wanted to get into action and say, if you're working in a company, let me arm you with the big, bold moves you can do. But if it's just you're an entrepreneur, you're a woman re-entering the workforce, you're a man that wants to be an ally, how can we help get through the personal barriers? And the last part was making work worth it, because I know relationships are everything. And I wanted to write a lot about that. And then work and life hacks, because we just all need these things to survive our busy lifestyle. And so just one other thing I'll add about creativity is I'm a morning person, but as I said, I have a 1 and 5-year-old. And unfortunately, they wake up at 5:30 as well. And that used to be my alone time. So I really had to do some coordination with, my husband to have some days where I could just get out of the house early. And in New York City, there's this amazing place called The Wing, which is an all-woman co-working space, absolutely beautiful, inspiring environment. And I needed to go there, and I needed to write there versus in my WeWork space that's a little bit, sometimes bro culture, but a little bit more formal. So to me, it was, finding the time of day that it inspired me to write. And then it was, having that technical structure, allowed me to build up the book from there, but certainly wasn't easy.
That's great. And what you described just there in creativity research is called a third place. Over history, thousands of years, creatives have always found that third place, not their home, not really a hard work environment, somewhere that kind of sits in the middle.
Yeah, that was it.
They create, they can also discuss, debate,
Yes.
coffee, whatever your thing is.
Yes, that's true.
So you found your third place, and also importantly, you also found the time and how to use it, whether that's in blocking, which sounds like what you did there, kind of blocking out that time on specific days rather than dripping things out. So that's great. I love the fact that you obviously found it as you were researching and writing this book, and also now promoting it. Was there a key aha moment, light bulb moment where you went, okay, this is the direction I want to go, or this is a key story, or you just made some insightful thing for yourself?
Well, because I wanted to incorporate stories of women that could be relatable and replicable, I know for me, I have a training and development background in corporate. And I know what it's like to be interviewed myself and not know how to prepare for it. So I created these really specific interview guides, and what I knew of each of those women, their stories, and what I knew I needed in the book, I made it easy for them. I said, okay, for you, Vartika, I want to talk about, kind of leading authentically or overcoming the cultural barriers of moving from India to New York City and, still being, taken seriously for your ambition. So I think that aha moment, that I want these women to get really like quickly to the point of their story that I know we need, that helped a lot. So kind of like having that structure where I'd send out those interview guides, then get them on the phone and record it, transcribe it, made it a lot easier and faster for me. And I don't know, I think actually now after writing the book, you're always writing the next book in your head as you go out, and I hear the questions people are asking me and what's resonating with them the most. And it's really just people want to know how to deal with tough situations with other people at work, that are either standing in their way of going after what they deserve, or are kind of, I think, preventing, like they're sucking out their energy. There's like some kind of energy drain there. So that's just been an aha moment now for me of like, okay, what did they latch onto in my book that they want to talk about this so much, and how can I help them the next time?
And it sounds like you're very good at uncovering someone's superpowers, their thing that they might not know it themselves, but they have this ability, they have this thing that they've been able to do in order to progress their careers.
Oh my gosh, I've been talking about this whole weekend. So I think that that's my strength. I also think it's a weakness too, because and it's because of my upbringing. I was involved in a lot of youth leadership programs after school that my mom enrolled me in, and that's how I met mentors. And I always appreciated other people helping me see the possibilities. So I automatically do that. That's why I started a company called Why Millennials Matter, because I didn't feel like there was enough people believing in this next generation. And I feel like that's my favorite thing to do, is look at you, James, and say like, oh my gosh, like I think this is your opportunity and these possibilities. But not everybody wants that. Not everybody actually wants you projecting their expectations, even if they're coming from good intentions.
Yeah.
So I'm really learning how to, be a better listener and figure out what do they need? How much of that like momentum do they need right now? And where are they ready to go to next?
And you mentioned in the final part of the book, you talk about hacks, life hacks, essentially. So talk to me about what tools do you use, apps, to just things that help you be more productive, help you better at what you do.
Oh my gosh, like I'm definitely obsessed with apps. So, for me, since the fact that right now there's events going on, there's a lot of coordination for my personal life and my professional life. I mean, I live by my Google Calendar. I use every type of note-taking thing. I used Evernote for a while, where I could just write everything and then record it and put it on. I use Rev a lot because I can record any of my meetings, then automatically transcribe it, although they've been a little slow lately. My goodness, I just love that all the places I'm a member of, WeWork, The Wing, that they all have apps. And so I can talk to people as a community. It's kind of like having like a Slack channel, as well as, events and kind of that coordination. So, and I'm on social media a lot, between mostly just YouTube and Instagram. And so I feel like just, kind of looking at that from a understanding of what's getting attention right now is where I go to.
And it sounds like you have a number.
I live by my Apple Watch.
It sounds like you've got a number of projects on the go as well. How do you task manage all of these? And you've got a family. So is there a tool that, obviously you mentioned Google Calendar, but are there any other tools you use in terms of setting out all those tasks and those projects?
You know what? Actually, I'm going to tell you one that's really important right now, because you mentioned the word earlier, is overcoming perfectionism. because as a mom too, like I need sleep, and I'm an early riser. So that means I have to be early to bed. So that's a huge hack for me, is that I have to prioritize that, which means like sometimes putting our kids to bed, and if they're both asleep by 7:38, that's the only like time I get with my husband. And so we have to negotiate and say like, here's the nights that we're together, and here's the nights like I have to go to bed. And the tracking of projects, like I still struggle with saying no. And I actually have some, I went back to my clients, my best clients, and said, like, of the work that I do, here's the things that I want to do more of. Like, give me feedback about, what you think went well, what you think was unnecessary, that maybe I went overboard with, because I think I'm an over giver of like things. So I don't know. I think that's one of those things, is just the communication with everybody, is figuring out what you need, and then not holding myself to some ridiculous standard. As long as I, can provide for my family and make that income and feel like I'm making a difference, then the rest will fall in its place.
That challenge of saying no to things, I think is quite a common one, especially amongst a lot of our listeners as well. There was something I learned the other day from Honoré Corder, who great writer, who wrote a book called The Miracle Morning. Co-wrote a book.
Yes, everybody's been talking about that. I have
Hal
to read
Elrod. It's a great book. And Hal Elrod has, anytime someone approaches him with a project, he has a page on his website where if it's a project, you have to kind of submit almost like a little mini business plan for like why they should work together. And we've started implementing this in what we do, because we get so many inbound all the time. People will say, oh, can we do this together? Can we do this? And I would want to say yes to everything. I never wanted to say no, because everything was like, oh, this sounds great. So, but by doing that, what it also does is only a quarter of the people who actually initially come to you with an email or suggestion will actually bother to fill out the form. So, you know that those quarter are actually really serious and going to do the hard work and the heavy lifting that you need to do in order to deliver a project. So that was my get out of, not to say having to say no to someone, but just say, I need a little bit more information. That was the little hack that we've been using here.
I like it. I will replicate that.
So what about books? If you were to recommend one book to our listeners, and also one album, what would those be?
Oh my goodness. So I would say right now, The Myth of the Nice Girl by Fran Hauser, because she's a woman that I've been spending time with. She was an executive at Time Inc. and really launched People magazine digitally. So she is a fiercely, credible work history, but like was a good person and people liked her. And being nice doesn't mean being a pushover. And so I recommend that book because it's complementary to Dig Your Heels In, and telling women that, dig your heels in sounds so like aggressive, but if you know me, it's like, no, hold your ground, play the long game. You deserve these things. And I think that having that book as a companion, sets the tone. Album, oh my gosh, like unfortunately I have every Disney album in my head right now, but here's one that I took my daughter to go see Ugly Dolls, which is an animated film, but it's really about perfection can suck it, basically. Like they're like, stop basically holding yourself to be like this perfect image. And I liked, taking my daughter to see that, having that conversation. And there's like Kelly Clarkson and Lizzo and all these awesome artists on that album.
Great. And we'll put all of these down on the show notes. People can go and check those out. If you go to jamestaylor.me and just type in Joan Kuhl, you'll find all these show notes here as well. Final question for you, Joan. Let's imagine you woke up tomorrow morning and you have to start from scratch. So you have all the skills you've acquired over the years, all the knowledge, but no one knows you. You know no one. You have to restart. What would you do? How would you restart things?
Oh, it's relationships. Like, so for example, I would still wake up as a champion for girls leadership and advancing women. And I would immediately say the lay of the land. What are all the organizations right now that share my mission? So how can I start connecting with each of them and say, where do you have a gap that I can fill? How can we all work together? I think to me right now, particularly the mission I'm on to move the needle around, gender bias and representation for women, that's where I'd start. I'd say, like, how can I be the glue? How can I be a connector of all these great organizations and great people that share, my passion and mission for this, and help us accelerate what we're doing.
And where's the best place for people to go to learn more about you, your projects, and also about the book?
joankuhl.com, JoanKuhl.com. You go there and you can learn all about the book. You can click on all the places all over that you can buy it everywhere. You can also learn about my speaking and my workshops. There's a lot of free content on there, and we're going to be posting some trainings. And you can also, if you are an organization or otherwise, you can click there and learn about my professional offerings. And if you're a woman who wants to share your story about how you're a courageous trailblazer, I collect those on the website as well.
Wonderful. Well, Joan, thank you so much today for coming on and being a guest on the show, sharing all about your creative life. I'm really looking forward to, hopefully we'll share a stage at some point. Maybe you're going to be the opening keynote speaker in some huge stage, and I'll be the closing, and we'll get a chance to see each other speak. So thanks so much for coming on today.
Thanks for having me, James. I loved it.
If you're interested in living a more creative life, then I'd love to invite you to join me as I share some of the most successful strategies and techniques that high-performing creatives use. I put them all together in a free downloadable ebook that you can get by going to jamestaylor.me. That's jamestaylor.me to get your free downloadable ebook on creativity.